Hi everybody, Ashley McAfee here. I am 22 years old and a single parent of a 1-year-old. Let's jump right into it. Anybody that is pursuing a career or is in college or doing anything with themselves, the biggest question is, who influenced you to do what you're doing? Did you always know you wanted to do what you're doing? Like, how did you know that was for you? The answer to the first question was, who influenced you? I personally didn't have anybody in the college life that, went to college or pursued a degree before me to influence me educationally to do what I do as far as going to college and, pursuing a career. So I don't really have anybody specifically for educational purposes that influenced me. But somebody that did influence me growing up, or like my foundation of myself, is my mother. My mother was a single mother. She raised me when I was from until 12. I was the only child. So she raised me by herself. And I watched her, be selfless. I watched her put herself on a back burner and make sure I had everything I needed. I watched her settle her life to make sure I was okay. And watching that grow up, it was heartbreaking. It wanted me to do more and be more. I felt like I have something to prove to my mom. I feel like I have to make my mom proud because I know how hard she worked for me to be in a situation to be able to do more for myself. You know what I mean? So growing up, I always knew that I wanted to go to college. I always knew like I would be going to college. For what? I didn't know exactly. Around middle school, grade school, I used to watch a lot of ER shows with my mother, like all the time. So I got into the idea of thinking like, Mom, I want to be a cardiologist. I don't really know exactly why I chose cardiologist. To this day, I don't know why. I think because of the ER shows, I'm not sure. But initially, I wanted to be a cardiologist. Going into high school, I kind of lost myself academically because growing up being the only child, I didn't really have anybody to talk to most of the time. Like I was just basically doing my academics and I did sports, but that was the only time I would have a release to socialize and stuff. So when I got to high school, I became lost in socializing and I got lost in my academics. So around my freshman year to my sophomore year, I was not really focused on my academics. I just was socializing. I just was passing to pass. I wasn't passing to learn. I wasn't really learning mentally. Around my junior year, I got scared. I'm starting to hear more about our GPAs. Colleges are, visiting our high schools. So I'm starting to think, like, what should I be doing with myself? What do I want to do? So I'm thinking, like, my mom's like, didn't you want to be a cardiologist? And I'm like, I really don't want to be that anymore. Like, am I cut off to be, a doctor? Do I really want to do all those years of school? Like, I mentally did not want to. So that was out of my mind. So for my junior year, in the midst of me trying to bring up my GPA, I was also trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Like my career clock, it felt like, a biological clock. My career clock was ticking. I was about to graduate in a year. I needed to know what was next. So my senior year of high school, I actually got enrolled into a teen court class. Teen court, it was a classroom that was set up like a courtroom. We had a jury, we had a defense table, we had a prosecution table, and we had the judge, and we would rotate between the roles, prosecuting people that had gotten written up for certain disciplinary actions, and we would discipline them, we would discipline, aka prosecute them or defend them, and be the judge or dictator of the whole class. And I ended up falling in love with law. In that time frame, I ended up applying to Kutztown University and a couple other universities, but I was so behind on my academics and I didn't do as good as I was supposed to be doing that my acceptance letters were coming in, later than everybody else's, so I thought I wasn't getting accepted to anywhere. Push come to shove, Kutztown University was the first university to accept me, so I jumped right on the offer. I sent in my deposit and everything, got my financial aid and everything together, and I jumped on offer. Later down the road, a couple other universities had gave me offers, but I was so already hooked on Kutztown University that I went to Kutztown University. So in the fall of 2015, I enrolled into Kutztown University. I went up there pursuing criminal justice. When I initially got up there, I was lost. We had, college algebra, we had English. I did not pay attention in high school, I noticed, and I couldn't keep up. And with me, when I don't keep up, I lose interest. I get scared. I get discouraged. So I ended up flunking my classes. In that time frame, I'm thinking, like, I don't know what I want to do with myself. In the same sense, people from the Marines and Army were coming up there, and they actually were like, you should enlist, you should be in the reserves. If you don't know what you want to do with yourself, you can take some time in the reserves and find yourself in the reserves and, serve your country. And in the same sense, we'll pay for school. I'm all for it because financially my family wasn't well off. So this sounded like a perfect time for me, to figure out my career path. So in 2015, I enlisted in the Marines. I went through the ASVAB. I took the test. I went to be in the Marine Corps. I scored very high on the ASVAB. They said any part of the Marine Corps that I wanted to be in, I could. I just had to go to basic training. During that time, I got so scared, I ended up not going to basic training. So that was my first career choice. So I left Kutztown University in 2015. And in the same sense, I had enrolled into the Marine Corps and ended up not going to the Marine Corps. This is when I was home. I went home, and I was home for about 3 years, not doing anything educationally with myself. I had 2 jobs. I saved up some money. I had got my first car. I just was, existing for real. So I got to a point where I was getting, anxiety about things. Like, what am I doing with myself? I saw all my college friends. I was only up in college for a semester, but I had already made so many friends, and I had followed them on social media, and I was seeing them excel in college and go places and talk about college, and I missed it. I missed the feeling of being accomplished. I missed the feeling of doing something with myself. So I went online and looked up things that, that might interest me. Growing up, I had braces for 3 years. In that time frame, I was kind of interested in braces. I thought I wanted to be an orthodontist at one point, but it went right out my mind as soon as it came in my mind. So thinking about that again, I'm like, I should look for something in dentistry. I know I don't think I want to be a dentist, but I know I want to do something in dentistry or in the healthcare field as a whole. So I looked up things online, and I came across a school called Allstate Career School that offered the Expanded Functions Dental Assisting program. In this program, you go to the school for 11 months, and they teach you hands-on work. They teach you the core elements of, your career, which is, your general courses of bookwork. And then you have a 12-week externship that you go on. During this time, 3 months in, I got pregnant with my son. So for the remainder of my stay at Allstate Career School, I was pregnant. Doing that, I end up falling in love with dentistry. And it's crazy because I never knew what I really wanted to be growing up. You know what I mean? Like I said, I always had thoughts and feelings, but that changed all the time. So I never had a sound thing I wanted to do. So once I got into after school, we began learning about the anatomy of the body. We learned every bone in the body. We learned every nerve in the body. We learned everything about the body, every system in the body we learned. And I just started getting deeper and deeper into it, and I just started liking it. I'm like, this is my calling. I think this is what I was supposed to do. So going into after school, after getting pregnant, I was very stressed out. Time was ticking. My due date was at the end of my graduation date, and we had a 12-week externship to do. In that 12-week externship, I had to, do the duties of expanded functional dental assistant. And at this time, I was about 5 to 6 months pregnant, belly and all. And I was making sure I went to my externship site. I was working 9 to 5 for free, getting in my extern hours before I went into labor. So during that time, it was very, very hard, very troubling for me mentally. I felt like I was going against a clock for, graduating and for my son. I had to make sure I got enough hours in before my son came, had to make sure my son was fine. Mentally, I was all over the place. During that time, we had labs that we got to, basically do fillings on, because Expanded Functions Dental Assistant, they're certified to do fillings. Other than, a regular dental assistant that's not certified to do fillings, we have a license to do fillings. So in school, this is my tympanoid. This is what we practiced on. I don't know if you guys can see. There we go. This front tooth actually had half of the tooth missing, and I restored it with a filling right there. It's not the same color, but initially in the real world it would be. But yeah, I ended up falling in love with this class. I ended up falling in love with the artistry of making things anew. And you see, I did some fillings back there, some amalgam fillings, the silver fillings people hear about and talk about so often. And this is when I fell in love with dentistry. And that's when I knew this is what I wanted to do.